Altogether Beautiful women. For those of you who don't know, the Altogether Beautiful movement was started to help us be our authentic selves. And when we do, we become bold, confident, and courageous. Today's video topic is going to start with our bodies. How have we viewed our bodies over the years? Sort of what is our story, beginning from when we were little girls to where we are now in our journeys of how we were taught, what we believed about our bodies, what God says about us, and how we can reconcile and merge those two stories together. Part of my foundational beliefs about body image and my body came from the women around me. So growing up, I felt like most of my friends, my family members, the women in my family, they were pretty thin. And so at a young age, I really internalized that the way that I looked, the way that my body was shaped, didn't really match up to what foundationally I believed was beautiful, which I do think oftentimes comes from the women that we're around, the women that raise us. And so I remember even sitting next to my friend on the bus and being like, oh my gosh, like my thigh is like twice as big as hers. Like I always had this complex of the way that my body was built wasn't necessarily pretty or beautiful. And that definitely set the tone foundationally for how I viewed my body. When I became a teenager, I started to realize that maybe men liked the way I looked, some men anyways. And so I started to then view my body differently, not necessarily in a more positive way, but maybe that my body was now, if it wasn't cute and it didn't fit into sort of the foundational standard that I believed that it should, then maybe it's this. Maybe I fall into this category, or my body fits into maybe more of the category that culture was saying was attractive. But none of these beliefs were really, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, my body is a temple, that it was an inner beauty, or just our foundational scripture for the movement, you're altogether beautiful, there's no flaw in you. To me, just reading that does not change the mindsets that were ingrained in me as a child, as a teen, as a young adult, as an adult. For me, reading the biblical definition of beauty was part and is part of my story, but I think practically digging into some of the mindsets that I've had that have been ingrained in me has been really important for me to say, well, in order to view myself the way that the Lord views me, I need to read what he says, but I also need to walk with him through my story and sort of backtrack of like, well, how did we get to this point? So I do think that walking through this together and having these conversations is important, because we don't want the pendulum to be, for me, my pendulum was, I do what I want to do with my body. I wear what I think looks good. I wear what gets attention. I do what I feel like is right. If we swing all the way over here and my body is so bad, I need to cover it up. I do think that our goal is to be free. It's not to be in either one of those camps. And I think that takes conversation, at least in my experience. Talking this out with other women has been really, really helpful. So just remember that there are always parts of our story that we can recover. There may be areas that we can go back to and revisit some of those parts of our stories that we want to view differently, that we want a second chance, that if we look back, we could tell our younger selves what the truth was. And so don't forget that you are not alone and that you're altogether beautiful. Beautiful, intelligent, and strong.